5, 4, 3, 2. In about 1 second, I'm going to be live for about 3 hours. I'm directing a basketball game, and it takes about 3 hours to do. So in about 1 second, I'm going to make the calls that it takes to start the show. So here we go. 1, ready up to 7 with graphic, ready to roll music, open announce, and cue announce. Okay, change graphic, change again, ready to roll highlights, cut to highlights, ready to come to talent on 2, ready to come to talent and open their mics, take 2, cue the talent. All right, for the next couple of hours, I'm directing a basketball game. I'm live, and anything I call for should come out on the program. It doesn't always, but it should come out on program. So if you've ever watched a live sports production, or maybe a concert, or something that was recorded live, you've seen the work of a director and his crew. You might have watched the work of hundreds of people, but never really thought about it. For years, I directed television out of mobile trucks. I also directed news and different things, but I have the experience of calling these shots over live productions. So let me give you a little background in terms of what you might do to prepare for a live production. Often in a production, you have to do some groundwork. I might need to roll some features into the show. And the features might be about the different athlete, or it might be about somebody who's involved in the program. You know, I did a couple of years, about 5 years, I did the Miss Washington pageant, and I had to do features on all of the Miss Washington pageant participants. So we'd go to different locations and talk to them about what they thought and so on, and those would roll into the program. So there was often work that was ahead of time to generate programming that would roll into the program that would fill some gaps where the time was maybe slow, or they were restaging or doing something different. In sports, you don't get that as much, but you might have highlights that would show how, let's say, an athlete had an injury or has a problem, and you have to roll a highlight. I remember one time I was doing a live program doing horse racing live, and I had sent my second director out to do a feature in the barns where they keep the horses. And she came back with this piece that when I saw the trainer's arm go up the back end of that horse, I thought sure we were in a lot of trouble. But it turned out for the audience that we were showing it to, that was very interesting, and people liked that piece. It was a big success. So the other thing that you do when you're getting ready for a program is you have to do a site check. Depending on what you're doing, some sites are very easy. They have camera positions already set. You put your camera there, and you know where the cable runs are, and you do it enough times, week after week after week, and everybody knows what to do. But there are many times, or there were many times for me, when I would come across something that was very odd, like a rodeo, or a windsurfing competition, or maybe motor racing, something that I wasn't personally familiar with. In fact, there was one time I was doing a coverage of a race out at Portland International Raceway, and I had all the cameras set up. I think it was about an 8-camera shoot. I had all the cameras set up, and the way it works with video is that everything has to be, if you're shooting something, everything has to show that the action is going in the same direction. Well, I set one camera on the infield instead of on the outside of the track, and the cars would come, and I'd cut to that camera, and the car was suddenly going the other direction. So we tried to put it into a digital video thing that would flip the image, but the problem with that was that the numbers on the cars were wrong and the driver was on the wrong side. So I ended up having to kind of work around that because there was no time to fix it for the program that we were doing. So it's not a perfect world. You come across all kinds of things in the sailboarding race that we did. I had a camera in an airplane, and I couldn't afford a helicopter in this particular production, so I had like a Piper Cub that they took the doors off of, and I could take that shot as long as the plane was in the right place. I could take that shot and it was useful, but the plane just circled back around throughout the whole deal, and I'd get some interesting shots, but it wasn't perfect. So what does it take to do this? There's programs out there. BYU has a program in the BYU studios, and their program includes doing sports and television programs like Studio C and different things like that. So you can learn at a school. There are lots of schools that have film schools, and they kind of tend to not do much live television, but there are places that do have facilities to do live television. So in my case, I got into it as a volunteer, and started with a cable company when I was pretty young, and volunteered. I ran camera for a while, and then I got an opportunity to produce and direct some local sports. From there, it kind of grew into other things, and I did a variety of different productions. So you can study for it, but the real world experience really, tells you whether you're going to make it or not. The other things that can happen in a television production. I mean, I already told you about the camera being the wrong direction, but when you're on live, everything counts. You're you're in a position where anything you say, everybody's going to try to do it, right? So if you say something wrong, they may do the wrong thing because you said to do it. But there was one case where I mentioned the Miss Washington pageant earlier, and there was one case where I was doing the Miss Washington pageant, and this young woman came out. She was going to do her talent. She was in a red, white, and blue evening gown with the gloves that come all the way up to here, and she was a bell ringer. So she had all of these bells in front of her, and she was doing an Americana medley, right? And in that Americana medley, she started off too fast. So she started off with dun 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 dun, and she's grabbing bells like mad, and it's like she suddenly grew extra arms, and she's kind of frantic, and I started laughing. Well, my laughing caught on, and all of my camera guys started laughing, and pretty soon I didn't have a stable shot anywhere. All of the cameras were bouncing up and down where everybody was laughing, so I had to lock down a couple of cameras and have the camera guys step away from the cameras so that I could cover that without all of the laughter interrupting the program. So like I said, it's an adventure every time you go out. There's lots of pressure. You have pressures from sponsors. You have pressure from the teams, or certainly the people who are engaged in whatever the content is. They want to see the best possible thing. So you have pressure from that to do your best. So you have technical people that help you. You have good camera people if you can afford to get them. You do your best to have a really good production. You could do a production of 3 or 4 cameras. You could do a production of 20, 50. At the Olympics, you could do hundreds of cameras. So there's all kinds of things that you can do as a director. But basically, I'll just tell you that I had fun. It was a great career. It was fun to do, and it wasn't always perfect, but I had lots of excitement. So just to go out here, let's act as if the show is ending. So ready, graphic over camera 6. Okay, change the graphic, cue talent, bring in the music, ready to roll credits, bring in the credits, and fade to black. Thanks.